So we'll start with a bow. And welcome everyone to New York Buddha Dharma. We are working our way through a syllabus, and it's a syllabus of readings. The syllabus and the readings are available in PDF. If you're new and you decide you want them, just put your email in chat and I'll send you the PDF of both the syllabus and the readings. Also, if you would like the flyer on that Sangye Khandro and the program that Sangye Khandro and Lama Chenam are doing on assisting the dying process, if you would also put your email in chat for that, and I'll send you that too. So, tonight we're continuing on with some readings, again on the structure of the path. And the first reading that we had was on the teaching of the Eightfold Path. This is a teaching that is not taught that often, although it's a very familiar title. All of these structures have very much to do with the meditation practice that we just did, of resting one's mind in awareness. Awareness and the space that we inhabit are one. The core awareness, it's right here, right now. It's always there. We think and we go away. We go, oh yes, what am I going to do tomorrow? Oh yes, what am I having for dinner? And then that thought dissolves and here we are. And we see whatever happens to be presenting itself to us in the form of sights, sounds, bodily sensations, smells. They come and go. Maybe none right now, or maybe there are. Tastes. Perhaps you're not tasting too much right now. Somebody it might be. And mental events. These are called the six knowables. And in awareness, they arise and pass away in the present moment. We think this glass doesn't arise and pass away. It's here all the time. But my awareness of it, here it is, it comes, and now suddenly it's in my world, my experience, and now it's not. All of these things, these knowables, arise and pass away in the present moment, these words. The ability to rest in that awareness, and all it is rest, because if you make any effort, it obscures it. It's an impediment. It gets in the way. If you think, I've got to try and do this, well, you're not doing it. It takes no effort at all because it's what we are fundamentally in our being. This is really getting very close to what is meant by Buddha nature, that all beings possess Buddha nature. In the higher Buddhist teachings, this is called vidya, which means seeing. It's called rikpa in the Tibetan, vidya in the Sanskrit. And Vipashyana is the constant return to this open, clear, effortless awareness. At the very highest levels of the path, what are called in the Tibetan tradition, the great perfection teachings, Dzogchen in the Tibetan, Mahā'ati in Sanskrit. They talk about there are two main techniques for achieving enlightenment. Coming back to this awareness is probably the most important of those two. And they call it, when you make this your path, shifting your loyalty from anxious thought with its struggles, its hopes, its fears, its anxieties. You shift your loyalty from that to this effortless, clear awareness in the present. And they call that, at the highest levels of the path, the lazy person's way to enlightenment. It's terrific. It's funny, but it's also a seduction. You know, it's trying to tell you, you don't have to do anything. It's really great. The less you do, the more you get there. The great Tibetan saint, Milarepa, yogi, spent his life in a cave after he met his teacher. Was so poor that he didn't have any food, so he drank nettle soup and turned green. When you see a painting of Milarepa, he lived in the 12th century. He's always green, although sometimes it looks more like blue, depending on the artist. And he said, I relax, I relax, I relax, and I achieve the Dharmakaya. The Dharmakaya means ultimate reality. So that's our practice, is to constantly come back and rest in this space. And in this space, these phenomena arise. The six knowables, objects of sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and mental objects. And they arise and pass away, just like the images on their computer screen, changing every instant. Just like that. I don't know if it's even like. Maybe it's the same thing as. So we come back to that, and it's full. When we begin to let go of the struggle, this open awareness, full of color of the six knowables, the vividness of them is full of warmth, kindness. A kindness because there's no struggle, because there's no cruelty in it. Although it might contain all the evils of the world as they pass and will come and pass away. But in terms of one's reaction, one is just here aware, and it allows you to work with it in the most intelligent way you can, beyond any kind of preconception, beyond any kind of judgment, beyond any idiosyncrasies, personal idiosyncratics. You can do what is appropriate in the moment because you're here appreciating what is arising and passing. And there's tremendous warmth in this, and that's called compassion. That warmth. Compassion is not a feeling sorry for. It's not, because then you're in a superior position and you're looking down on this little poor inferior being. In the Tibetan teachings, they call that grandmother's love. You know? Not that there's that much wrong with grandmother's love, but it's just meant to be, it's not the real thing, not really compassion. Compassion is the appreciation of the beauty and the warmth and the kindness of this space in the present moment. And we come back to that. And the other aspect of this space is extraordinary clarity, that we're cutting through all of our preconceptions. Whenever you come back, you're letting go of the dreams of I and other, of good and bad, of hope and fear, through which we often just see the world and interpret it that way. And we're beginning to see it as it is. They call that prajna. That's the quality of prajna, which means transcendent knowledge. It's transcendent because it has nothing to do with I and other, giving or getting, hope and fear. It's as it is. The phrase for that in the Sanskrit is ta, as it is. And a Buddha is one who is the essence of as it is. He's the Tathagata, the one who is gone to. Gata means gone to. Ta, as it is. And so our job is to switch our allegiance from our neurotic, habitual anxieties. They're so repetitive. They're like bad habits. From them to this open awareness, which we practice in the meditation from time to time, from moment to moment, and we can practice it in our lives. And really, that's what the Noble Eightfold Path is all about. It's just a way of talking about this from different aspects. So there are 8 points. The first point is right view, it's called. The word for view in Sanskrit is drishti. Ultimately, we're enjoined to have no views whatsoever. So the right view is really no view. It's the absence of conceptualization altogether. It's this clarity of mind. That's right view. Giving up concept. We tend to see the world through concepts. These concepts, I'll give you an example. This is really the essence of karma concept. So for instance, I made up this little story to illustrate it. A mother is walking down the street with her toddler, and she is window shopping and not paying a lot of attention. And the toddler sees a dog, and he goes up to the dog, and the dog bites the child. The mother realizes what's happening. She takes the child, she succors the child cries and gets over it. That memory is stored in what is called the alaya, the storehouse consciousness. It's an aspect of mind. Freud called it the unconscious. We all know what it is. None of you are thinking about your mother until I say the word mother, and then she springs to mind. She comes up out of your memory. Just so with that child, the memory of the dog biting was stored in the alaya, and after a few months, the child wasn't thinking about that dog anymore. It's going on to other things. But then one day, the mother and the child are walking down the street again, and the child sees a dog in the distance, and that memory of the traumatic incident pops to mind, and the child is frightened. The mother sees what's going on. She notices the child. She sees the dog approaching. She goes up to the owner. She finds out it's a friendly dog, and she brokers a meeting between the child and the dog. The dog is friendly, jumps up, licks the child's face, plays, and the child learns that not all dogs bite, that other dogs are friendly. And that memory, that experience is stored in the alaya, in the storehouse, in the unconscious, if you will. So the next time, the third time the child meets a dog, the reaction as the memories come up of both the angry dog and the friendly dog temper again the way the child is going to react to this. And this is the way we move through life, collecting these experiences which are stored in our alaya, in our unconscious, in our memory bank. And they lie there as seeds. That's what they're called in the tradition. Bijas in Sanskrit. They're seeds, they're embryonic potentials until something triggers them into life. And what can trigger them into life is that you see someone who reminds you of that past experience. You had an angry mother, father, whatever, and you see someone on the street who looks like them, and suddenly that feeling comes up, and you feel the tension in you as you look at that face, even though it's a totally different person. You might meet that person and find out that this person's really friendly and nice, and that your apprehension was unwarranted. And so we go through life with these seeds being triggered into life. They come conscious, either by external events, or eventually they just get kicked out of the alaya. It's just like at night when you dream and you have an anxious, frightened dream, or it might be a pleasant dream. And these are the seeds just coming out of the alaya into the dream consciousness and producing the dream that you're having at night. Or it might be that you walk down the street in the day and you see something that reminds you, and it triggers a seed from the alaya, and it comes out and it colors the way in which you see the world. These are called habitual patterns, That's the translation of the Buddhist psychological term namdak in Tibetan, vikalpa in Sanskrit. And what they mean is that we've got these patterns that are stored in us, which are triggered into life and color the way we see it very, very idiosyncratically. Each one of us has a different set of these seeds. And each one of us has different reactions, prejudices, hopes, fears based on our past experience. And if you're a Buddhist, you believe, or you think, or you experience, or whatever, you take it as credible that these seeds go way back into previous lives, even. And that they come to fruition in this life. This is karma. This is the action of karma. When they say being enslaved to karma, bound by the karmic chain, this is the way in which we're bound by the karmic chain. We don't see reality as it is. We see it through the veil of these preconceptions, habitual patterns that come up again and again. Some of them are so habitual, we get sick of them. They just come up again and again and again and again. So the right view, you see, is to give up conceptualization and to see things as they are in open space. You recognize that you have this prejudice. You recognize that you have this habit. And when you see it, you can let it go and see things as they are. You can rest in the space of awareness. This is the practice. That's the first of the Noble Eightfold Path. The second is having right intention. And what that means, same damn thing. When you have this habitual reaction, then you react in one of three fundamental ways. You either, if you're having this reaction towards another person, let's say, could be anything, could be food on your plate. You can either, if you don't like it, if it's a negative reaction, you want to push it away. If it's a positive reaction, you think this is going to make you happy, you want to pull it towards you. And if you are indifferent, it's neither for nor against you, then you're indifferent, you just stay the same distance. These are called the three poisons. Pushing it away is aggression, pulling it to you is passion, and remaining the same distance. It's usually translated as ignorance. That's a bad translation. Indifference would be better. The word in Sanskrit is moha. So right intention means reacting to things as they are and giving up this conceptual three poison reaction to things. Having the right intention is that you treat the other that you're in relationship with, that's sitting in front of you, appropriately, not in terms of me. What is it going to do to me? What is it going to do for me? Or if it's not going to do anything to or for me, then I don't care about it. That's all very egotistical. And we cut through that and we see things and we relate to them appropriately. That's right intention. The third point is right speech. This is very simple. Term Rinpoche says, perfect communication, which says, it is so, rather than, I think it is so. Just seeing it and speaking to the reality in front of you, rather than your judgment, your opinion, your like or dislike. The fourth point is right discipline, shila, which means that having seen it stripped as it is, having given up this threefold poisonous intention of the three poisons, then you can react to it appropriately. You can treat it appropriately. You can say, hi, nice to meet you. You can say, whatever it is appropriate to say and do in the situation. This is right discipline. And when you act with right discipline, the world calms down so much. it becomes truly virtuous, not in the sense of good as opposed to bad, but in the sense of wholesome and alive. The fifth point is right livelihood. This is very simple. Just means doing what is necessary and proper to create the basis for treading the path, for waking up, for doing all this, because there's nothing more worth doing. When you wake up, then you can really be of use, extraordinary use in the world. So right livelihood, Rinpoche used to call it transcendental common sense. The sixth point is right effort. And what this means is that when you give up the interpretations, these habitual patterns, the effort that it takes to respond, to be responsive, to be a part of this world, this life, is not an effort. It comes automatically. It's like someone comes up to you and they say hello, and you say hello. And if that person is friendly and you can feel the warmth, then you respond with warmth and kind. And even if they don't, you might still be warm and respond with warmth and kind because you're happy to meet someone. It involves full participation, right effort. You're here. There's no distraction. There's no hidden agenda. So he says, we release the discursive gossip and provide the space of non-effort. This is right effort. Space of non-effort. It takes no effort at all when you give up preconceptions. The seventh point is right mindfulness. And this is really the practice that we were doing. Coming back to this present moment, letting go of thought whenever we realize we're thinking, and just seeing it. And when you let go of thought, the most important part is not to beat yourself up about it, not to be judgmental, because that's another big thought. That's ego trying to be there and achieve something. This is only about one thing, awareness and warmth, coming present. And it's a matter of being kind to oneself. So right mindfulness has to do with simply relaxing and being kind to oneself in this space. Compassion begins here at home. Compassion for oneself. And it means not trying to become some super meditator. That's ambitious. That's full of ego. When you want to try and stop your thoughts, that's my teacher used to call it. He used to say, ego wants to be there for its own funeral. You know, oh, it's so sad. He died. Ego is saying, referring to himself or herself. And finally, the eighth point is the same thing again. It's right samadhi. Samadhi means absorption. And this is the ultimate samadhi. It's relating with the space of the situation, relaxing into it. You are one with it. You're one with your own knowledge. You're one with this world. There is no I and other. We give up the watcher. The watcher is like a function that we, of ego, of confusion. It's a voice that we carry around. And it says, that's good, that's bad. You're doing well now you're not doing well. It's like a thing that sits on your shoulder and gives you this running commentary. And above all, it attacks you. It says, you need to try harder and then you'll get somewhere. You're not doing well. You're living a bad life, whatever it might be saying. You know? Your life isn't what it should be. That's what the watcher says. Sometimes in coaching, they call the watcher the saboteur. the bête noire, the black beast. And there's a term for it in Tantrism. They call it the king's spirit. It's attacking you and it's attacking everything else by judging it. Even when it says something is good, it's good as opposed to bad. So it's another judgment. There's no real appreciation. So right samadhi means this open, clear awareness in the present moment. I don't know, I'm assuming that somebody here did these readings. I don't know. There's some new people too. So the second reading was related. And basically it's, you see if there's anything in here that we haven't already covered. It talks about the path of bravery. And that in order to be brave, it's necessary to have fear. Because being brave means that you see your fear and you embrace it. You see it and you don't try to get away from it. You just see it with awareness. And you give your loyalty to that awareness and move on. You don't become obsessed with it. If you do, you make it into an enemy and you give it life and you turn it into a demon. And then you won't get rid of it at all. It'll torment you. Again, Milarepa. There's this famous incident where a demoness comes into his cave. He's meditating and she attacks him. She bites his toe and she won't let go. And he preaches the Dharma to her. Says, you know, you're disrupting this holy yogi. I'm a holy yogi, and you're impeding my progress on the path. And, you know, you're going to accumulate a lot of bad karma. And she says to him, through the corner of her mouth, because she's biting his toe, oh, you're just trying to get rid of me, you know. And she keeps on tormenting him until he finally accepts her. He accepts the fear. This is what she represents. And when he does that, she becomes his ally. She becomes the goddess, Tsarangma, instead of the demoness, Tsarangma. And she's enlightened. And she helps him achieve enlightenment. And this is the same thing with all of the things that we feel are bad about ourselves. If we treat them as negatives, we turn them into demons. And they will stay there as long as we're trying to get rid of them, tormenting us. But when you embrace them, you embrace your fear, you see it, and you say, that's okay. Then it can turn into a god or a goddess and help you. So in the second reading, he talks about really what we've already talked about, these three qualities of discipline. Discipline means behaving properly in this space of awareness, of reacting to things as they are instead of as we project them to be, appropriately, with kindness and clarity. And the second quality is prajna, which is, again, seeing things as they are. That's actually the third one in this. The second is samadhi, which is the constant reminders that we've got to be awake. You know, you're walking down the street and you're thinking about that son of a gun who said such and such to me, and now how could they do that? And I'm going to get even, and blah, 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 blah. And you, all of a sudden a horn goes off because you just stepped off the curb and some taxi's blasting his horn at you, and you wake up and you realize, you know, you're in the middle of the street. Wakes you up. That's the reminder to come back. And we have them, that's a heavy example, but we have them all the time. We're thinking, and then we get these reminders, come back. And when the trick is that when you see that reminder, don't beat yourself up. Don't say, darn it, I lost my awareness again. I'm a lousy meditator. I'll never get this. You don't do that. You just see it. And you see the absent-mindedness too, with compassion, with ease, without judgment. And it actually becomes kind of interesting. And slowly, gradually, this is a gradual process. We ease into, we let go into awareness. It's so effortless. It's hard to let go into it. It's like when you do yoga and you're trying to let go of all the tension into relaxation, and the tension keeps holding on. But slowly, slowly, it eases. The muscles relax, and you relax into awareness, which was already here. So ironic. So I'll stop there. We can have a discussion. It really relates just to the practice that we did, and we'll always do these meetings, or Vipashyana practice. Any comments, complaints, protests? Agreements?
I just have a question about 7 and 8. I'm kind of a little confused about right samadhi. I thought samadhi meant something a little different. And right mindfulness. Could you explain the samadhi again and the differences?
Well, mindfulness has to do with coming back. That's what mindfulness really is about. Mindfulness has to do with coming back from dream into this present moment. That's what it means to be mindful, right? The body is really absorption, relaxing into the present moment. It's much more full. Mindfulness is a practice that is very popular now, obviously, the big word, right? And what it really amounts to, it's not full-blown Vipashyana, full-blown awareness. You work with an object, like the breath. Could be a mantra, like TM, Transcendental Meditation. Could be lots of things. It could just be anything. It could be this roll of tape. And you come back from dream into awareness of your chosen object. That's mindfulness. Samadhi is absorption. You're just right here in the present until you're not. The word for mindfulness that's translated as mindfulness in the Sanskrit is shriti. And it used to be translated before we got into the whole mindfulness revolution as remembrance. That you're remembering. Remembering what? Remembering to come back out of dream. And then it's been translated now as mindfulness. It's great practice. It's the foundational practice for Vipashyana. The ability to rest in the space depends on your ability to come back from dream. That's why I hope it's okay that occasionally during the meditation, I'll just interrupt and I'll say, whatever you've been thinking, see it. I'm just helping. I'm a reminder. Bringing us back.
Do these build on each other? I mean, are they meant to build on each other?
Not really. They're all different aspects of this bodhisattva state of mind. Some might be more recognizable and available to you now, but it's not a sequential process. Thanks. Those are great questions.
It seems that remembrance. Tell me if I'm wrong, or if there's another point of view. Remembrance has something to do maybe with coming back to the body. Remember.
That's good. I mean, the body is a great aid to bringing you back. And in fact, I'm going to send out this notice about these death teachings about how to work with death, for yourself and others. But one of the problems you see in the Bardo states, state between death and rebirth, it's the same problem as in the dream state. There is no physicality. You know, when you're dreaming at night, the physical world, which is the body, it's the extended body, you know, is a great aid. It pulls us back out of dream all the time into pure awareness. And when we go into purely mental states and we miss the body, and then it becomes much more difficult, you know, to maintain awareness.
Yeah, and if it really gets bad, you get into a space called being beside yourself, which is,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm an old social worker and I've seen a lot of that. People in extreme states of mind being beside themselves, kind of merge back in here. Oh yeah, here we go. Come back in.
Yes, thank you, Graham.
I have a question about the, when you mentioned about the watcher. Is the watcher the same as the observer? You know, meditation, it's different types of meditation. They ask to cultivate the witness, the observer, which is
Yes.
to watch the process of how your mind works. So is that the same thing that you meant by the watcher, or is that a different aspect of?
No, it's the same.
Oh.
It's the same. And in Buddhism, in the beginning, your watcher is telling you how to meditate. But after a while, you begin to realize that it's in the way. It's like, in fact, Trungpa Rinpoche called it, this observer, this watcher, he called it the hitchhiker. You know, you don't need it. It's an extraneous thing. It's hitching a ride. And its main job is critical. It's criticism. It's to tell you when you're doing it right, when you're doing it wrong. And it's all about self-improvement. This more advanced, you might call it, this is real Buddhist meditation, Vipashyana, is about giving up self-improvement. Self-improvement is the aegis of ego. Only ego wants to improve. And what we're doing is we're coming back into the real world, this world, beyond any notions of imaginary states in the future. So yes, there were schools. I mean, I remember being taught about the observer, the watcher. And really what we're doing is we're becoming one with knowledge. It is, we already are. Just the notion that there's a separate intelligence is just, that's ego, that's confusion.
So it's a step in the process, and
So I'm sorry, Nadia.
It's a step in the process to cultivate the observer, or the witness, or the watcher, and then at some point you don't.
Really, it's more that it's there in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you start to practice, you find that you're giving up the watcher.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you start to practice, the first kind of meditation you'll do is concentration practice, where you're focusing your mind one-pointedly on an object.
Mm-hmm.
And you can achieve states of extreme concentration if you do that. But not if there's this voice going, that's good, that's bad. Now you're doing it, now you're not.
Mm-hmm.
That voice is interrupting the concentration. So you have to give it up, right? Really from get-go.
Thank you.
There are traditions that teach it. They're not Buddhist. And when it comes to those states of concentration, they're only limitedly useful. They're useful you don't want to take them too far. You can take them very far and achieve trance states that are very pleasurable. But they're cul-de-sacs, dead ends. and it's a waste of time, and it can actually do harm to you. So really what the point of doing that kind of practice is that it's a beginning practice, and it has these three virtues. The first virtue is that when you haven't meditated before and you begin to practice concentration, we call it shamatha, abiding in peace. When you begin to practice that, focusing your mind one-pointedly on an object, you discover to what extent we're lost in monkey mind, in thought. You know, many people hardly know because they're so loyal to thought. That's the first benefit of this first practice, shamatha. The second benefit is that you begin to develop the ability to bring your mind back from dream into the present moment, using an object that's in the present, like the breath, which is only in the present, right? It only happens in the present. That's the second benefit. The third benefit is that you get a rest. You get a rest from the anxiety and the tension and the struggle of thought. And I want to tell you, there are many people who practice this kind of meditation just for that rest, because they're in some kind of terrible situation. It might be a mental one that they've developed over time. It might be a physical one that they've walked into, something that's developed in their lives that is causing them tremendous anxiety. And they get a rest when they practice meditation. It's a relief. These are the three benefits of shamatha. But we've gone on from that. If they're incorporated in Vipashyana, shamatha is called that translates abiding in peace. Vipashyana means superior seeing. And that's what we're practicing here. That's what most Buddhist teachers, I listened to a Tibetan teacher about 6-8 months ago, and during the Q&A, someone asked him about shamatha, and he said, I've never heard anybody say this before. He said, shamatha isn't meditation. It was really funny. You know, watching your breath, you know, focusing on an object, on mantra. He said it's not meditation. And I know what he meant. He meant that it's not really conducive to producing sanity. It's just a precursor for the real meditation. Anybody else? These are good questions. We've got some new people here tonight. Welcome.
That kind of sounds a little discouraging.
Does?
Saying it's not meditation, because we're working on it for so long.
Shamatha?
Yeah.
Well, he's really saying you've got to move on into Vipashyana. Don't stay with it too long.
Don't people move on when they're ready to?
No, sometimes people don't move on until they hear it, until someone tells them about it.
I see. Okay.
A lot of people, for instance, are introduced to meditation in a yoga studio or with transcendental meditation. And you can stay doing that practice for a very, very, very long time.
Right.
But if you get around a Buddhist teacher, they're going to move you on. They want you maybe to do that in the beginning because of the three benefits that it entails. But then they want you to move on into Vipashyana.
Well, I feel like I'm transitioning because I'm using both.
Okay.
You know,
That's
when
how I learned.
it's necessary. There are times where I have to do shamatha.
There are times it's useful.
Yeah. And there's times where I just can't cut it with the Vipashyana. I just can't get it together. So I'm not judging myself. I'm being gentle with myself, and I'm doing what I can do.
Good. That's great. Do that.
Yeah.
And I also want to offer, if there are people here who want to talk about their meditation practice, we can have an online one-on-one, and I can counsel you on your meditation practice. You just need to contact me, email, text, and you can do it through New York Buddha Dharma too. And we'll set something up, talk about your practice individually. There's hardly anything more important.
You'll be hearing from me.
Huh?
You'll be hearing from me.
Okay. I enjoy it.
So shamatha vipassana is also a practice, correct? The combination of the two.
Thank you. In fact, that's what we're doing.
That's
We're
what
doing
we're
a
doing.
combination of shamatha and vipassana. That's what Rinpoche called it, a hybrid, shamatha-vipassana. When
So,
we sit here in the space, that's the vipassana aspect. When the breath goes out into it and dissolves, that's the shamatha. Yeah, it's a hybrid. You're right. Thank you, Tony.
so I've been in the right place all along and didn't realize it.
Probably, Joe. But that goes for all of us.
Yeah.
It's
You
like
can
a
also, when you're doing
resting.
shamatha vipassana, and the breath is going out, dissolving, and then here you are, you can let go of the breath altogether for a little while and just be here in the space. And then it's pure vipassana. And then when you find your mind wandering into dream, you come back to the shamatha vipassana.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great practice. You've got a toolkit, that you can use. Tim.
Two questions. The first one being that it seems to me, although I could be wrong, that the idea of shamatha is learn that I actually have control over my attention. So I can direct my attention to the breath or to any focal object that I choose. And prior to learning that, then I'm just like in a pinball machine with a lot of like stimuli. And then once I develop the skill of doing that, I could change the target from the breath to the present moment. But in both cases, I'm consciously directing my attention away from the dream and into something else.
Right.
Does that sound correct?
It does. It's not quite finished. Because the last stage is, you see, what Tim is saying is that first with shamatha, you take something like a little rupa, a statue of the Buddha, and you make that your object or your breath or a mantra. And then you can expand that, and ultimately you can make the whole space that you're in here the object of your meditation. So you're thinking, and then you say, oops, I'm thinking, I come back and I make this space the object, as though it were a concrete thing. This present moment, here and now. At some point you realize it isn't an object, it's real. You don't have to make it as an object. All you have to do is relax back into it. And then it becomes pure vipassana. And this is a long process, actually, of shifting your loyalty and realizing what the real is. It's not something that, just, oh, well, everybody's different. It can be just a finger snap, if you've got the right karma. But for most of us, it's a long process of shifting our loyalty from this idea of focusing the mind in some kind of achievement, to actually realizing we're already here. And then this awareness, this space, this now, isn't an object of meditation. You're just coming back. You're coming home.
So the second question was, I find sentient beings to be like inexpressibly clever and innovative. And so sometimes when I see people walking down the street, they're talking on their cell phone. And so they're actually not where they are physically. They're also not with the person that they're talking to. They're actually nowhere. And so I wondered if you wanted to remark on things like social media and cell phones, where we've actually been able to create escape hatches and distractions from the present moment that didn't even exist when these teachings were given.
Well, you see what ego is all about: confusion, thought, all of that stuff is all about drama. It's about imagining that we want something we don't have, or that we want to get rid of something we do have, which is actually the same thing as the first one, finding something we don't have, because then we want a state where we're free from this thing, So altogether, it's about an object of desire And we set out in pursuit of that object of desire. Now, the object of desire might be love, might be money, it might be freedom from fear, it might be freedom from my anxiety, from my self-hatred. But we set out in pursuit of whatever it could be. And when we set out in pursuit, we encounter obstacles. If you don't encounter obstacles and you just get the thing, then it's not interesting anymore. The story's over. The drama is finished. It's like when you get what you want, and then what? What are you going to do with it? Well, you play with it for a little while, and then you get tired of it. But if you don't get what you want, then you've got a drama. And there are obstacles that arise, and you have to overcome them, and you are the hero or the heroine of your own journey. This is the stuff of samsara. It's the stuff of movies. It's the stuff of the stories we tell ourselves about our lives and what's wrong with them and what's right with them. It's the stuff of confusion and suffering. And we can find it in lots and lots of places, in social media, on Netflix, in our minds. And our minds, they spin out these dramas. That person insulted me, I'm going to get even with them. I hope that they curl up and die, And we've got all of this angst and furor, or whatever it might be, the three poisons. And as far as I'm concerned, we just find more and more media. It's ego's way of keeping itself alive. You see, unless ego has this game to play, it doesn't exist. That's all it is. All ego confusion is the actor in this dream. And when the dream stops, the actor's gone. It's that simple. Trungpa Rinpoche was once asked, he said, what's the purpose of fear? He said, the purpose of fear is to prove that I exist. It's the same with all of these. They are occupations which keep ego going. And when we stop, when we come back into this open space, ego dissolves. Does that make sense? And I think we just find more and more clever and technological ways of playing these games. Yes? Tim?
Yeah.
You have a comment?
Me?
No? Okay. Amelia. You're muted. You're muted, Amelia. Thank you.
Okay, so when we go back to awareness, how do we know when it is pure awareness or it's just awareness by the conditions of the way that we are? I mean, we can bring awareness of this awareness in the space loaded with the feelings of the pandemic, okay? Or we can be loaded with all of our conditioning. So how do we step from that awareness to a more pure awareness, and what does it mean, the more pure awareness, with no awareness of all the other conditions that we bring about with us?
There are two answers to that question. The first is you practice coming back into this open space of awareness again and again. And you become more and more familiar with it. The second one, and this is hard, but I'm going to say it because I've heard other people say it, like whom I respect, like Khandro Rinpoche. She's a wonderful female teacher, Buddhist teacher. A teacher can show you that space of pure awareness. And it's called pointing out.
Pointing out, yes.
And it happens in an intimate relationship with a teacher. And it's not something you can just conjure, or arrange by appointment. It's karma when that happens with a teacher. And it speeds up the whole process.
So then
but the main thing is to begin to make a distinction between your awake awareness now, like right now, you're just right here with me, that, as opposed to then going off and thinking, well, but what about, and how can I get, and what about, I'm going to have this problem with, Let that go and come back again and again. Trungpa Rinpoche called it shifting your loyalty from confusion to enlightenment.
Would you say that this is all relative awareness or not?
Pure awareness, true awareness is not relative. Only confused awareness is. Confused awareness is all about I, other, better, worst, good, bad. You know, we do a practice. I keep thinking there's a practice, a Dharma. Dharma means hidden, revealed text. These are magical things. They come from Padmasambhava, many of them. And they were hidden by him because he knew that people of his time weren't ready for these teachings. So he hid them, knowing full well when and by whom they would be discovered in the future. Okay? I love that story. It's whether it's true or not. There's a Dharma that I love called the Sadhana of Mahamudra. Mahamudra means great symbol. It's a very advanced teaching. Sadhana is a practice text. And in it, there's this line, good and bad, happy and sad, all thoughts vanish into emptiness, like the imprint of a bird in the sky. Beautiful line. Carl, you look like you have something on your mind. No? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, you. Thank you. Thank you.
I always thought relative awareness was just awareness of your relatives, but not. I'm learning more now.
Yeah, about that crazy uncle you've got.
There you go.
He's always cutting up at the parties.
Boy.
Well, folks, anybody have anything they'd like to say or? Yeah.
Yeah, hi. We're talking about awareness and the next step, and you just talk about emptiness going off into space. I always felt that Vipassana practice was indeed kind of a sense of emptiness. The more you practice, the longer you stay in the space.
Right. Exactly. Yes. Yes. Vipassana practice is it's a name for a beginning practice. That's ironic because ultimately it is the ultimate practice. It changes its name as the person progresses further and further on the path, but it's the same practice of resting one's awareness, not even one's awareness, of resting awareness in space. And there's a great teacher who died. Well, his sons are still abroad teaching. His sons are Tsukni Rinpoche, maybe some of you know them, and Mingyur Rinpoche, wonderful teachers. And their father was a man named Tulku Ujin. He wrote a terrific book. His students took his teachings and codified them into books. And there's this one called Rainbow Painting. He talks about Vipassana. And he says, it just changes its name as the practitioner begins to see the world differently. The practice is the same. It's resting one's awareness in the present, in space. And the first big change is called Maha Vipassana, great Vipassana, when one begins to really appreciate the beauty of the phenomenal world and the kindness and the heat of it. And the second stage is shunyata meditation, emptiness meditation. Empty of what? Empty of any true existence of I and other. We are living in a world in which nothing has any true existence. Everything is arising and passing away instantaneously in the present moment, which it is. We just think, literally think, things endure. And this shunyata, one begins to live in this space of shunyata. And then it's called shunyata meditation. And then beyond that, the vividness of the phenomenal world as it arises in emptiness becomes dominant. And it begins to send messages to the practitioner about what that phenomena is and what it means and what it's telling the person. And then it's called Mahamudra, great symbol meditation. And beyond that, there are a few other things that happen. And then you get to Dzogchen, great perfection. And it's still this meditation of just resting in awareness. It's so beautiful. I relax, I relax, I relax, and I achieve the Dharmakaya, Milarepa says. We just relax into awareness. And if from time to time you go back to watching the breath, that's great too. Shamatha Vipashyana, the hybrid. So a couple of announcements. I'm going to send out this thing about the teachings on death. These are terrific teachers, Sangye and Chinam, Lama Chinam. And if I don't have your email address, then I won't be sending it to you. If you want me to send it to you, that or anything else, put your email in chat and I'll get it. If you can make a donation, we suggest $10. You can do that at newyorkbuddhadharma.org, but nobody's watching, so it's strictly up to you what you can afford. And during this time of COVID, that's a real question. What else? Oh, and if you want the syllabus, let me know and I'll email it to you. So unless somebody has anything else they want to say, Mary, did you have something? You're muted. You have to unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself.
You click on the little red microphone. There you go.
So you said that you would be contacted through email. What is your email?
Yes. Yeah. Shall I tell you what my email is? It's JJOEBAKER, jjoebaker @gmail.com.
I like
Nikki, if you're
the,
saying anything, Nikki, I can't hear you. You're muted.
I like the Sanskrit you taught us today, ta ta ta. I'll be using that.
Ta ta ta. You can just say ta ta. Yeah. Wonderful to see you all.
Same.
And if you need anything, call me or email me and we'll get together. So we'll close with the dedication of merit. This is what bodhisattvas do. They give away the merit
Thank you.
to others and themselves, actually. It's a very good thing to do.
Oh, you should mute us.
Oh, mute yourself. If not, we'll have a little cacophony and you'll see why we mute. That's okay. By this merit, may all obtain omniscience. May it defeat the enemy wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. From the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. By the confidence of the golden sun of the great east, may the lotus garden of the Rigdon's wisdom bloom. May the dark ignorance of sentient beings be dispelled. May all beings enjoy profound, brilliant glory. Wonderful, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Nice to
Thank
see
you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Everyone be well, be healthy, safe. Thank you.
Yep. Everybody be safe.
Thank you, John.
Bye.
Thank you,
You too.
everybody.
Bye.
See you.
Bye, everybody.
Hi, it's nice
Looks
to
like
see
a
you,
Brady
Carl.
bunch over here.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
Bye. Thank you.
ma'am.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Who's saying that? Oh, Roberta. Wonderful to see you always.